Hello, and welcome to the Tiniest Spark Executive Function Theory to Reality. This podcast is designed to share information and strategies for educators and caregivers to encourage and support young learners to become more independent and successful. I'm your host, Rachel Ramsey, and I'm so excited you chose to take some time to be here today when we will be discussing missing work, the bane of everyone's existence. In an earlier episode, we talked about checking grades or competencies as a general rule about once a week. How can we support young learners when they have missing work, whether it's a substantial list or a really tiny list? And there's a lot of different ways that we can approach this that will help them to realize this is a problem with a solution. And that's going to be really, really important. One of the first things to discuss is thinking about the tone that we use. We really need to try and approach with the mindset of like a fact finding mission. And that may feel kind of frustrating, whether you're a caregiver or an educator trying to help them, especially when the list gets pretty large. A lot of times, what they'll say is, oh, I left it at school, or oh, I left it at home, or it's fine, or the teacher hasn't graded it yet, or the teacher lost it, or my parents threw it away. There's a lot of different obfuscation methods that students may have. That's the first thing that we need to kind of help them tackle with that missing work. So one of the things that we need to do is first make sure that we are all in a calm mindset. At least you are. The student or the young adult may be really struggling with trying to find a way out. Remember that this problem could seem really huge and insurmountable to some students, and that's where we're all in there to help them figure that out. So the first thing we want to do is when they're saying it's at home or it's at school or it's somewhere, we want to kind of say to them, you know what? I need to see that work. Because at this point, you have so much missing work or you have missing work, and that's telling me that we really need to kind of take care of it. If they say that it's not here and it's unavailable, the next order of business could be ask them to, if you're a caregiver, to email the teachers right now and ask them that question and CC you on that email. A lot of times you'll find that the truth will somehow miraculously come out. And when I say truth, I want to be careful to acknowledge the fact that they might be not as truthful as we would like. I also think it's not necessarily in a manipulative way. It's that struggling to take care of this missing work, it's easier to just tell somebody else and pawn it off for a later time in the hopes that it will disappear, it will get easier. So that's really important to think about because it can feel really frustrating as the adults when they're telling you things you're like, that does not sound right. So, emailing a teacher and CCing you may help you figure things out, and it may also help the educator on the other side realize, yeah, we know there's a list and we're working on it. At this point, trying to figure out the root cause of the missing work isn't going to be helpful. Just take care of getting that work into a shorter list so that they can actually start to handle it. The next thing to do once you find some of the work, and the nice thing is with so many things being digital, a lot of it can probably be found online in some sort of platform. So if you're looking at like a pod list of assignments or a teacher's list of assignments per subject, they may say spelling page 2, and you can go to that young adult and say, where is spelling page 2? Show it to me. And a lot of times they might say, oh, it's done. Awesome. Show it to me. And I'll be so excited. We can high five or do whatever it is we're going to do. Sometimes the student won't be able to find it. Sometimes they'll find it and it's half done, which is part of why sometimes they think that it's all the way done. Sometimes you won't be able to find it, and maybe that's where the email strategy will come into place. Another thing to do is to ask the learner what would they like to complete first. So let's say there's a list, maybe 4 assignments. Ask them which ones they want to do first, because sometimes it'll depend and it'll vary. Maybe they really want to challenge and take like the two hardest ones and finish those first. Sometimes they want to do the easy ones first and just get themselves on a really good roll. Maybe they want to start with their favorite subject first or end with their favorite subject. And it might totally depend on the day and how they're feeling. So ask them with some choices. If they struggle with, like, I don't know what I want to start with, hard or easy, math or ELA, when they swear that it's done, they need to show it to you. So make sure that you always see the proof that it's done. If an assignment has been handed in, email, CC you, and this also does a couple of other things. It helps them to practice advocating for themselves and addressing an issue. A lot of times what I see in a classroom is that young learners know they have missing work, or they're like, oh, I turned it in. And so they think that they're all good to go. That's where they probably need to follow up. There are a number of times where an educator might say, have you checked the no names? Because yes, you did it, but I don't know who they belong to. And that's a really important conversation to have. So having them follow up and not just assume, well, I did it, so I know we're good. If the assignment's been turned in, oh, I already said that part, delete that part. If an assignment is half complete, have them complete it right then. Now is the new later is a really great phrase that I like to say. And then place it in the done side of a folder. This is something we haven't talked about too much yet, and I think this is a really great strategy, particularly for paperwork. Have a two-sided pocket folder, and on one side, have the learner write to do, and on the other side, have them write done. So that way, everything that needs to be done is in the to-do folder, and everything that needs to be, or that is completed and is just waiting to be passed in, is on the other side. That would be also a great place to write a little set of questions on the little pocket of, is your name on your paper? Is the heading accurate? Depending on what the expectations are, maybe they need to put a class period or a homeroom teacher, different things like that. That way it's all in one spot. We've got to do on one side, done on the other. I've even seen some learners take it so far as to put due dates at the top of assignments in the to-do folder side and actually arrange them chronologically of either when they're due or when they wanted to start working on them. And then that way they just literally look at what comes next. If a missing work list is really long, substantial, as in we're not going to be able to finish this in one setting, one sit down, help them plan out when they are going to complete it. I just did this with a student last week who was feeling really overwhelmed with a lengthy list from being out and being absent. One of the things that we did is I said, pick one thing additionally to do each night. Let's write it all down. If you follow your plan, you will be done with all of your missing work at the end of the week. And all of a sudden, that giant list, when we spread it all out, didn't look nearly as bad and as terrifying as originally thought of. And that makes it feel a lot more manageable and more of, oh, I can do this. I can make this work a little bit better. So let's just recap a little bit for missing work. Maybe create a two-pocket folder, one side with the to-do, one side with the done, asking them to email if there's questions. If you're at home, ask for the proof. Have them show you the work. Make sure that it's completed with their name on it. Believe it or not, that's a really big deal. Putting it in maybe a done side if it's a paper version, or have them pulling things up digitally and making sure that they're turned in. Making sure that anything is half complete, is all set, and it's all done. Keep helping them to approach this a little bit at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you take care of missing work? A little bit at a time. And then celebrate every time they get one done. And maybe at the end, that list is completely gone. Then that's when you go to the next step of, let's dig into what's going on and why do we have missing assignments. First, we got to take care of making that list feel like it's shrinking, and that they will be ready. Hopefully, this gives you an idea of just a couple of little tiny sparks that can kind of keep shifting that momentum from missing work to no missing work. I hope we get to spend more time together. If you have questions you'd like to ask, you can reach out via Twitter and Instagram at TeenChangers12, or check us out on TeenChangers.com and YouTube. Be the light in your day and someone else's day, and look to find that light, especially when it feels like you are lost in the dark. Until next time, take care.